Hey, everybody. What is it? Week 17 of the Auric programming journey. So we're on the enteric nerves. This is part of the nervous system that doesn't get talked about very much in any modality. I mean, a little bit here and there. The thing that you would probably hear about it is that it's the second brain, and it's the nerves that have to do with the gut. You know, the thing that's very interesting about the enteric nerves, it's this kind of like webbing or mesh of nerves that kind of innervate the whole abdominal area. And that's kind of the thing that they do is the digestive system. But, you know, every part of the nervous system, like if something gets severed, like if you break your back and you get where the spinal cord gets injured in a particular area, everything below that area doesn't function anymore. Like the nerves kind of go. And so the same with the autonomic nerves. Like if some part of the nervous system is damaged, that area just doesn't work anymore. Like, it's interacting and relaying messages and receiving information from the brain. Now, there is one exception in the whole entire nervous system, and that is the enteric nerves. If you were to go through and sever like all the connections between the brain and the enteric nerves just keep plugging along. Like they're really tied to, you know, kind of like a vegetable state, things that are operating without you being aware of it. It's very involuntary, but even even if the nerves get damaged or severed, the gut keeps going forward. And so, this has a lot of benefits, obviously, with the digestive system, but you can see here instinctive responses. It has an impact on that, has an impact on emotional functions, especially lower emotional functions. It's involved with the homeostasis mechanism, and it also increases conductivity, to the divine, to the soul, to the spirit. The other thing that I would say about this that, I didn't write here, but getting together the notes for this upcoming weekend's class, we're going through the central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system, the somatic nervous system, autonomic nervous system. But the very first thing up when we go through and do our processes is the enteric nervous system. And, the thing we're doing on the weekend is about how the nervous system dictates like the function and parameters of the heart. Like if you feel loved, it's because both your emotional heart, the energetic heart, and your nervous system have come to a place where you can feel loved. If you're very loving or you have self love, again, it's your nervous system and the emotional component kind of coming together. And the thing that's interesting about the enteric nerves is part of what it does is it is an aspect that has to do with processing karmic imagery. Like it's kind of how one of the aspects of how we kind of process our karma or our karmic imagery. And so this is why its impact on emotions and instinctive responses is that if it's in a hyper reactive or hyper vigilant state, or it's not functioning well, when it's exposed to information or stimuli from the environment or karmic imagery that's maybe in the blood, there's going to be an overreaction in the gut, overreaction in the homeostasis mechanisms and the instinctive responses, your generation of lower emotions. And so, we might have karmic imagery coming up, but how we think dictates how it's going to manifest, right? It's not so much like I don't want ever my karma to manifest. It's gonna manifest, right? The sun's gonna come up in the morning and your karma is gonna manifest at some point. We know these. And so with that, all we can do is start adjusting and how we respond to this imagery, how we respond to these situations. And this goes back to the idea of that it's not about the thing or the incident, but it's how we think, right? It's always about how we think. And when we come from the intellectual point of mind, we don't really think about something in the how. We think about things as objects. Like even past event is a situation, it's an object from the point of view of intellect. It might have been traumatic, but how we think about it, how we process it, either makes it devastating or something that we grow and learn from and we become a better person, right? And a lot of times it's a little bit of both, right? But it's how we think about these things, not what happened, but how we processed it, how we thought about it as these things were happening. The One of the best things you can do for yourself is keep adjusting how you think, which is intuition, it's clairvoyance, it's learning, it's processing. Um, anyway, I could keep going on and on and on, but let's get in and do the process. So you have your blend enteric support, and we're going to start off with the standard approach. And with the standard approach, your awareness is on the left side of your body, from the left side of your face and neck, your left shoulder, all the way down to the left outer angle. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Awareness is on the left side of your body. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Move your awareness to the front side of your body, your face and throat, your chest, all the way down to the tops of your feet. Mm. I mean, isn't it the one with like Artemis or absinthium and wormwood? Mm. Yeah, super healthy. Your awareness is on the front side of your body. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Yeah. Absinthium, Cape chamomile, Davana, which is in the same family as Artemisia, absinthium, and Artemisia and long. Your awareness is on the right side of the body. Right side of your body. Right side of your face and neck, your right shoulder. All the way down to the outer ankle. And then the back side of your body. The back side, back of the head and neck, the whole back, the hips, down the backs of the legs, all the way to your heels. And then just pause and be still. Do you feel? Oh, let me yeah, calming, soothing, like a reboot. Yeah, Samantha was saying like calming, soothing, a bit of a reboot. Let's just say we've had a couple weird days, and so that she's feeling calmed and rebooted. Yeah. So the standard approach is something you do daily. You can add it to, a protocol or a set of protocols. You could also do a stack where you do like maybe 3, 4, or even 5 Auric programs all together that's very specific to you, things going on with you. And that is something you can do all the time. You can do it multiple times in a day if you want it. But here we're going to do the advanced approach. And with the advanced approach, this is something you might only do once or twice a week. Your energy body needs time to kind of process it. And if you did it daily, which I've done, I don't recommend. but it can be a little too much. And so I found like when I just let my body kind of do what felt doable, it was like 1 to 2 times a week. And so, I get it when you kind of want to push through something, but sometimes having a little break makes it actually happen faster. So we're going to do the advanced approach. Your awareness is on the left side of the body. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. And then the back side of the body, your whole back side, back of your head and neck, your whole back, your hips, down the backs of your legs to your heels. The right side of your body, right side of your face and neck, your right shoulder, all the way down to the right outer heel. And then the front side of the body, your face and throat, chest, abdomen, front of your pelvis, down your legs to the tops of your feet. Then pause and let go. Begin inhaling. Your awareness is on your knees, either the whole knee or just the back of the knee. Your ankles. Your awareness is on your ankles. The soles of your feet. And then just pause and be still. Pause and be still. Now, let's do the 4 quadrants. Your awareness is on the left side of your body, left side of your face and neck, left shoulder, ribs, all the way down to the left outer ankle. And then the front side of your body, the whole front side, your face, throat, chest, all the way down to the tops of your feet. Your awareness is on the front side of your body, your face, all the way down to the tops of your feet. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Your awareness is on the right side of your body, the whole right side of your face and neck, your right shoulder, right hips, all the way down to the right outer ankle. Hmm. And then the back side of the body, back side, back of the head, neck, your whole back, your hips, down the backs of the legs, all the way to the heels. And then just pause and be still. Okay, last little section. Your awareness is on your brain. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths with your awareness on the brain. Your spine, your awareness is on your spine. Your brain and spine both at the same time. And then the brain and soles of the feet. Awareness is on the brain and the soles of the feet. As you inhale, you move your awareness a bit above the ankle. As you exhale, down into the earth. And pause and be still. So notice your body, your feelings, your thoughts. How's that feel for you, by the way? Yeah. I mean, the other thing that I would say, for the enteric nerves is um, it's tied to stress, stress and stress response. Probably even, not so much that you're in fight flight or not, but just like the initial, like when you first have that stressed out response to something, a lot of times that is the brain in your gut or the second brain. And yeah, the more that you calm this down and regulate it, the more your stress response changes. And like, sometimes even like when we're doing our breathing, we're doing a kind of abdominal breathing. You're inhaling through your nose, you're exhaling through the mouth. And that is engaging more of going down into the abdomen rather than just being a chest breather. And just even that has a regulating effect on the autonomic nervous system, which is fight, flight, and rest and repair, but also on the enteric nerves. And I was just talking with a friend, and we were talking about, I don't know, sports, not that I'm a sports guy, but just, I'm always curious about enhancing athletes' performance, and they, were doing a study, and apparently, like in his circle of sports and everything, he's like, yeah, they just made a big breakthrough, like a big aha moment. Breathing in through your nose actually increases performance and endurance and longevity, and it went down this whole thing. And that seems like really apparent, but he goes, yeah, he goes, this whole time I've been breathing through my mouth. I was like, that's not very efficient. Like, you breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, and it it's it's tied to all these stress responses, but it's also what oxygenates the blood, reduces the production of lactic acid in an athlete, which keeps them out of going into deeper fight flight mode and elevating blood pressure and all those things. And so, here when we're doing these practices, we're doing it already, and then we're doing it with oils which enhance it. But it seems straightforward, but like in his circle of sports and everything, that was like a super big aha moment. And we just take it for granted. But anyway, let's go ahead and share and unmute. You can type in um, shares and questions. Go ahead and fire away. We'll do that for a few minutes, and then we'll jump into our normal Q&A. So we'll process the Auric programming for just a few minutes, and then we'll jump in.
And if you don't know how to raise your hand in the chat, there's a little button that says react, and it has like a little heart. When you click on that, you'll see the option to raise hand. And go ahead, Denise.
Hey, how are you?
Let's get.
Hi, are you there?
Yep.
And you just muted yourself. Okay, let's get you back unmuted again.
Sorry,
There you go.
Samantha. Hi. Well, I still am having a bit of trouble on that left side, especially from that left hip down. And I
Mhm.
have a hard time pulling through my left foot, the soles.
Do you have an issue with that hip?
Yeah, that's the one that I've been in physical therapy for. And
Okay, so it's that. So,
yeah.
Spend a little extra time on it, and one of the things that you can do, not necessarily in this process, but um, put things that are like antispasmodic onto that hip, and then even breathe things into that hip. I'm with you. Like when I go and get some therapy from time to time, like physical therapy, the you know the hips are always like a target, just wear and tear through the years, but slipping on the ice and this and that. And, the more that you keep decreasing spasms in the hips, it helps to reduce the potential for arthritis and things in that hip socket.
Thank you. Could you just give me 2 antispasmodics?
Well, marjorum's always good, but like I'd say for the hip, I like the idea of joint relief. It's antispasmodic. It gets blood to the area, because that's the other side of the coin, is you're wanting to get blood into that area, and then you're wanting the blood to move out, and so that is antispasmodic, increases circulation, but also keeps the blood moving in that area. Because if it pools, then it starts to be stagnant and may end up turning into inflammation and things like that. But like the black pepper, pink pepper, like all those are good. Basil, petitgrain, marjoram. There's the pain relief antispasmodic. Even yarrow. Yarrow is quite antispasmodic. And one that I forgot about, but when I was writing the stuff for the lymphatic class, is fennel is actually quite an antispasmodic. I don't know that it's better than marjoram, but it deserves to get mentioned. But one that I forget about, and is coriander.
Oh,
And coriander is especially good for like spasms and inflammation where there's pain involved. And, you know, those aren't things that I would necessarily just go, hey, let's throw coriander on it. But, you know, I was doing some reading through my old notes and everything, and I was like, God, so many things I forget. And, you know, wintergreen's also a good choice, especially when it's been chronically held spasms in the body, you know, because sometimes it's not even because it's of an injury, but if something's already a little compromised down deeper, is the body will kind of armor up. You know, it will kind of spasm and tense up to try to protect a joint or a unstable low back, even if it was just a short time injury and you got better, but the hips go, ugh, got to stabilize that back, and they just they'll stay contracted, and so that's why I mean, like I get some therapy on my hip from time to time just to get in there and get those really deep spasms out, and you know, it doesn't feel good when it's happening, but it's to prevent future issues, you know.
and to keep that blood flowing, like you
Yeah,
said, the
yeah.
circulation. I did notice, and you're exactly right. There, through physical therapy, when I do go on my stomach and I'm kind of doing like a slight raising my shoulder slightly up, that
Uh-huh.
area will really tense up,
Yeah,
really tense up.
yeah, yeah.
So it and breathing is significant. And I'll also really drop into my body if I can really breathe properly when I'm doing
Right,
exercise, just slowing
right.
down and doing it. It gets
Yeah,
me, and I didn't really realize I was like, in fight
yeah.
flight,
I
it like
mean,
gets
it's
me
one of
back
those
to my
areas
body.
that we don't consciously think about until we're struggling with it. And then you're like, oh, God. I also like to go, like, you know, obviously up into the back a little bit, but down into the legs, you know, so like the outer part of the leg and the inner thigh. I think that's still, it's not a direct cause, but it's still a contributing factor. And like I find that when I do some of the work there, it also unwinds that hip socket. And then when you're doing the quadrants, the energy will flow better. Because part of what makes energy not flow is when the body is contracted in an area. And so, you know, even like the health rays and everything, it helps to open things up. But it's a practice where sometimes, like when you bring in divine energy, you do this thing where you know, and what you're doing is you're concretizing or physicalizing the energy. And so if your body's already doing that in an area, the energy is now moving in that spot. So, I mean, even throw in like mugwort from time to time, not every day, but just keep mixing it up. And I mean, I can't say this is my routine. Like I mix it up a whole bunch. Like I'm doing all kinds of antispasmodics and pain, and I'm doing pain stuff not because I'm in pain, but just to kind of keep reconditioning the tissue and put helichrysum on it, and and still work the health rays, and still work the things from the Auric programming, the one for the muscles and the one for the nervous system.
Um, on that, you said outer part of the leg and the inner thigh specifically to
Mhm,
really work on
mhm,
those as well.
mhm.
And the other one that you really did suggest that when I am really in pain there, if I use a little bit of oil, like a sesame oil on first, across the top of my thigh and hip, my where my hip and thigh meet,
Uh-huh.
is that birchwood complex.
Oh yeah, but
Oh, that
another
is
great one. Yeah,
it will just really cut the pain.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah,
for days, even
yeah,
just one application. Thank you
yeah.
so
I
much.
agree. I agree. Yeah,
Oh, thank you so
you're
much.
so welcome. Yeah, keep working that left side. It'll get better there some point.
And then we do have a share in chat as well, but just for all of you guys who have been joining us for the ARC programming, we are just going to do this share. So you can raise your hand right now to go right into the Q&A queue. And we'll get to you starting that here in just a minute. And then someone shared, I forgot how yummy this smells.
Oh yeah, I we were going back and forth about it, kind of quietly or maybe not so quietly, but it's got a bunch of absinthium and I think originally I used wormwood, but wormwood and absinthium are just really kind of the same plant from different regions. And so the absinthium and Cape chamomile, and it's got Davana, which is also in the mugwort family, but it's more of a flower. And so yeah, it's got a lot of good stuff, a lot of mugwort, a lot of artemisia, a lot of absinthium, a lot of Davana, and then Cape chamomile and a couple other little things. But it's a nice blend. Yeah.
Someone's asking, can we do 3 advanced protocols in 7 days?
I mean, yeah, but it's going to be a lot on your energy body because it's not just like, oh, I'm going to calm symptoms down. It'll make the energy body reconfigure a little bit. You're releasing things. And so if you start getting a little overwhelmed, then I'd say back off. I mean, you can do it for a little bit, but it's probably hard to maintain over a period of time. So it's better to be consistent than intense. And so if you can maintain it 3 times a week, then I say go for it. But if it starts to get a little odd, try to back off, but to the point where you're still kind of consistently working the energy body that way, the aura.
Well, thanks for your shares, guys. And I was gonna say, I do enteric support probably like once a week or so.
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
always so helpful. But I do find it's a subtler one.
Yeah.
It's one of those, it just,
Yeah.
obviously I feel more mellow right now, but I
Yeah.
think just like every time it just kind of takes this,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I can see progressively.
We had the newsletter go out with the nettle. The nettle would impact it somewhat, like taking the tincture of nettle. And then the other thing is in the class coming up this weekend is in there is a different blend for the enteric nerves that's about releasing stress and trauma loops and balancing out that part of the nervous system. So the enteric support is about the aura. That enteric equilibrium would be more about internally. You don't necessarily take it internal, but you inhale it and it would infect deeper into the body. And so if it's something that strikes you, it's a good combination to do those couple of things. Yeah.
And that does conclude our week 17 Journey Through the Arc program. And so next week, have your fascial release oil handy. So we'll be doing week 18 next week, which is fascia/trigger points.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones.
And again, the oil is fascial release. And so, yeah. And so if you have any questions, regular questions, go ahead and raise your hand in the chat. And also we have some already in the regular chat. If you are new to our Q&A, we do ask the people whose hands are raised first, and then we go to the chat. So just so you guys know how we'll flow through this now. And go ahead, Lolly.
Hey,
Hey, how are you?
doing good.
So yeah, that was lovely. That was, just a quick, it felt deep in some parts and then a little bit less deep in others, but it's always useful to work on that area for sure, needed. Just some follow-ups. I don't know. It's like, I don't know what's going on. It's like I got to a point of like, okay, now what? I'm still over this whole, the eye situation still going on, and actually my eyes been like, it looks the same, maybe slightly better, it's still there, but the eye's been just bothering me. Like, yeah, I think it's
What's that
over.
mean? Like what?
Like it's I kind of feel it. It's like burning and itchy, and the other day I kept feeling like there's stuff in the eye, so I think the eyes are just getting more dry. I know if they're just exhausted from all the compresses.
Yeah, it could be.
Um,
Do you hydrate your eyes at all?
I do I do drops.
Like how many times a day do you do the drops?
Usually I just twice a day is enough, but the last few days I do it consistent. I do quite often.
Yeah.
And I
Like
still
like
think there's still a lot.
anytime there's like an eye issue, not so much a sty, but like, like you said, like burning, pain, and like whatever it is, like hydrating the eyes, like people who have had LASIK surgery and stuff, I would have them like lubricate their eyes like 7, 8 times a day. And I don't
Wow,
know that you need
okay.
to go that extreme, but it's not necessarily for the sty, but if your eyes are,
Eh,
it's most likely that they're inflamed, the
Yeah,
lymph is probably a little bit stagnant and detoxification is a little stagnant. And so I would, like, any time that the eye is having an issue, I would always hydrate, because the drier the eye gets, the more there is an issue. And so you
yeah.
just keep hydrating them so the eye can heal faster.
Yes, I've been doing more of that. I also been doing because Shisandra usually I do on and off, but I went back to doing Shisandra. I do that at night
How,
because I
how
know
many
that
drops? How many drops are you doing?
I'm doing it internally, right? I'm doing internally
Yeah,
maybe a couple
two.
of drops.
Like do
Yeah.
4 or 5. Do 4 or 5.
Okay. I didn't
Yeah,
even okay. And
yeah.
then do it just at night, right?
I mean, you could do it during the day. Like you get a lot more benefit out of it at night for enhancing sleep. But like if you're having issues, you could take a couple drops in the morning and still take the 4 or 5 at night.
Okay, because I tend to do
Yeah.
it in the evening and then sometimes I add some more just before bed. Is that a
Hmm.
good option as well?
Yeah, I mean, I would do it close to bedtime just because it will make you sleep better.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll do that. I've been
yeah,
sleeping really deep actually the last
good.
couple of nights, a lot of dreams and stuff. And um so yeah, so I like again, I don't know if I'm missing something or just like patience.
No, it's just
That's
the body. It's like it's a process, and that the body's been going slow with healing this, and you're definitely out of the stress state. Your body's stress state, but you also have stress that's upcoming. You know
oh
what
my
I
God,
mean?
yeah.
And
I'm in
so
denial.
like it's like it- I mean that your eyes didn't respond very quickly and get better within a few weeks of, a lot of times even without treatment, this would resolve in maybe 3 or 4 weeks. But that it didn't resolve quickly, that it's not resolving from week to week, that it's just making little progress. That seems kind of normal.
Yeah,
And
and
and so the when the stress levels elevate, the process is probably going to slow down a little bit. And so do all the things that you can do for reducing stress in the body, and marjoram, clary sage, really super good for that. For me, I like um, petitgrins, mandarin
yeah.
petitgrin, neroli petitgrin, something like that. But there's all kinds of things you can use. I'm sure you got like a ton of things that you could
Yeah,
use.
and I just also got the kit for the new kit. So I have the basil ganglia
Uh-huh.
blend as well that I can
Hmm.
start working with.
Hmm.
The petitgrain,
Do the brain soles of the feet pattern for that.
okay, with the basil ganglia or
Hmm. Hmm.
okay. And then the petitgrain inhalations, or do you ever do it
I,
internally?
I I would do inhalations, but I'd also put some on the body. You know,
Okay.
like for me, like Mandarin Petitgrin is kind of been my jam for a little bit, but I kind of cycle through all the different Petitgrins.
Mm-hmm.
But I just put it on my wrist. Like I have 4 or 5 drops and I rub it together and I'm like, I feel good. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah,
no, I like it. It's relaxing. Okay.
yeah.
And then still doing the white pine and the Sylvester
Hmm.
pine and all of
Hmm.
okay.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but it's the traveling. I think I'm in such denial that I barely started doing stuff, and it's less than a week, and I still
Yeah,
have to figure out which oils I'm not taking because
right,
so many of them are going with me.
right.
Um, the other thing that's been coming up, not sure why, is like the pins and needles all of a sudden a little bit more the
Yeah,
last
I would
couple
say
of
that's
days.
the stress. Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
deal.
I mean, you
Okay.
have physical injuries with the pelvis and everything that you're a little bit more predisposed to that, but you kind of had a little period where they diminished a little bit, but keep the breath deep, keep,
Yeah.
keep doing the things to keep stress levels down. I mean, traveling internationally is always stressful, but you're going to an extra stressful place.
And
And
yeah, but you know what it is? I think for me it's more what's in my mind is more of the family stress than the war stress.
oh yeah, no, I hear you. I I completely get that.
Oh God.
That is not lost on me any way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just yeah. And then the other, yeah, and the red spot again kind of comes and goes. The other thing that's been, which again could be just, I'm guessing is the same thing, leg spasms. I sometimes wake up with that, but sometimes I get like my feet get numb, yeah, like I get spasms in right foot during the day, like even as I'm driving. Is that
Yeah, that's probably a little bit of a mineral deficiency. I mean, it can be, fight flight in your body in a stress state. Like, part of why I go to therapy is to undo years of that, where my
Mhm.
my legs were just, ugh, they were a hot mess. Like I would cramp so bad, and they're a million times better, but I still gotta make sure my feet aren't cold at night, and like all these little things that, and marjoram is really good for spasms
Yeah, which I do
in
that.
the, yeah, really super good for that. And it's helpful, but I would also follow it up with like at least some magnesium or calcium
Mhm.
magnesium. For me,
Okay.
I've been taking the Nettle for a little while to offset that. And, I
Oh, is
noticed
that
that I
okay?
don't quite, because Nettle has a lot of calcium, a lot of magnesium in it. And
Okay.
actually, you know what? It's also good for anemia. Like
Oh
it helps
wow.
you process the foods that have iron in them, and it's not the magic bullet, but it's helpful, and
Yeah.
reduces inflammation and body tension. I used to use a combination of nettle and goldenseal and wood betony, and I think the other thing, if I remember right, was burdock. And I would have people take that for a period of time, and through the herbal formulation, we would be able to get discs back in place in their back. Like
Oh wow.
and it was a lot, it was mostly nettle and golden seal. But I mean, that's how well golden seal works. Like it's super
So,
good for your body.
okay. So yes, I've been taking Goldenseal for a while. And interesting when I was organizing, because I'm taking my stuff for traveling with the
Mhm.
calcium, magnesium. I'm like, oh, do I need to? I haven't actually taken it in a
Yeah, I
while.
would take it. I would take it.
And the nettle is a question mark
You
for
you
me
so
too.
just heads up, you're going to be more prone to cramping while you're flying.
Yeah, even though I'm usually good at that actually, and I
Yeah.
barely, but yeah, but it is, and I have to take what like heliquism or
Mhm.
lemon before, right? It's helpful. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But okay, I'll go back on that and the nettle that
Yeah.
I'll see if I don't know if I can get the nettle before I'm traveling.
Yeah,
Uh,
stop off at a health food store and pick some up. Get
okay.
some capsules or something.
Basically any nettle and then just order from you when I'm back, I
Mhm.
guess. Okay. Thank
That's
you,
an
because
easy one to find. Yeah, easy one to find. I mean, we're
okay.
making it like double potency and everything, but for years I just lived off the capsules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I see what I can find, but yeah, I didn't even think of adding but I can go back on the calcium magnesium. I haven't taken it in a while. Makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
the nettle will help resolve calcium magnesium issues.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I would, you're traveling. Like it's horrible to know that you could treat something and then you don't have it with you and you can't just stop off somewhere and pick it up. And
Yeah.
I
And
would have a little like bug out kit that like, it sounds like you're putting together, but Samantha and I both have a little bug out kit that seems over the top until, there's always something there that I forgot or something.
I
So I just have
I
this travel kit that's, some herbs and some minerals and electrolytes and then a bunch of the oils and a couple ointments and a body tonic, and I have it just all in this big case, and I just throw it in my suitcase and Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like packing all of that because it's
Yeah. Oh,
well,
yeah.
it keeps
It can
getting
add
bigger and
10,
bigger. Yeah,
15 pounds to your
exactly.
suitcase. Like I
Yeah.
know, I feel your pain there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because again, it's for me, it's like what I
Yeah.
don't need to take, because most of it I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'll add those as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
I
you.
mean, the way that I always get it is like I want to be comfortable wherever I'm at, and if there's little hiccups or little problems, like what happens if I start to get sick? What happens
Yeah.
if I hurt myself? What happens if I drop something on my foot? What happens if somebody sneezes on me? What happens if, I kind of start going through, what if I get food poisoning? What if I get, and I just go through that whole little thing. And, it's not every scenario, but it's like the common ones.
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of, and then what's going on with you? Like you're treating a bunch of stuff. So,
Yes.
you just have this little go kit and, you know,
Yeah. And I mean, I can find things, but I like to have the things that I'm used to and I know that work,
yeah,
not start
yeah.
experimenting with different
Right.
like
Right.
and trying to find, health food places and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Barbara.
Hey, Miss Barbara. Hey, how was Santa Fe?
The trip was good. Not what I expected, but still good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I got a few people on the retreat interested in your oils, and
Oh, you're so sweet.
a couple of them in particular were asking about Vitex, and I realized I don't feel super informed on that. So I'm wondering if you could expound on that for a little bit, and maybe we could cut this out and I could give them a link to the
Sure.
video.
So Vitex is one of the things that we use for helping to regulate a woman's cycle. And, if there's uh, painful menstruation, light menstruation, heavy menstruation, it kind of balances all of that out. Also, it would be for premenopause and menopause, and even when there starts to be hormonal imbalances after menopause. And so it does have a balancing effect on women's hormonal levels, and even if there's no cycle present, if they're going through menopause, it will reduce like the sweats and things like that. So it's always has a balancing effect on the hormones, and it can reduce some of the cramping. I mean, sometimes we'll use black cohosh with it if there's like excessive sweating or like night sweats that the Vitex doesn't address. And we also have a blend that is called No Sweat, which is a bunch of different oils for the autonomic nervous system to help balance out the autonomic nervous system. And, we've used it on several people, and like with women who like really break out in sweats, and they'll say the night that they use it, they don't sweat. And so, sometimes it might be a combination of things. If there is hormonal levels that are fluctuating or a bit off, I would probably also do frankincense and myrrh with it just to jumpstart all the glands. But the Vitex is going to be specific for the female system. You can use Vitex to treat the prostate in men where it starts to get enlarged. I think it works, but there's things that we have a special kind of eucalyptus that I use for that, and then we use nettle for that as well. And so it's not usually the thing that I go to right off the bat for an enlarged prostate, but anything for the women's cycle or female hormones. Vitex is super good for that. And the great thing is, you could just take a drop or two, put it on your fingertips, and then just rub it in the temple, put it on the wrist, wherever you want to put it. The wrist or the temples, just because the fatty tissue is real thin and it hits the bloodstream really fast. You don't even have to take it internal or do a big breathing process with it. You just use it and it does what it does. And, you might not find immediate relief in the first application or two, but usually within about a week or two, you start noticing it. And it's best when used consistently. And so, a little bottle will probably last a person like maybe 3 months. And so it's not a thing that you just go flying through, but if you use it consistently, I mean, it does the job. Even the scent is real light, like it's not a heavy scent or anything like that. And so, yeah, I found that it even reduces some cramping in women, like when they're on their cycle or but sometimes I augment with something else, but the primary thing I use is Vitex.
Thank you
Yeah.
for that.
You're so
A follow-up question. Does it do anything for the insomnia that can be associated with?
you probably would want to augment. I mean, I think it might help a little bit, but if you wanted to kind of lean into things that are good for the female cycle and things, you could start with clary sage, like inhaling a little bit of clary sage. But I'd also go to like marjoram or spikenard, lavender, something like that. I tend to like to lean more towards marjoram and spikenard for that. But if there is instability in the emotions, because sometimes the emotions become unstable because of hormonal fluctuations. And sometimes the body gets like in a stress state where like the body just starts generating lower emotions. It's not that they're upset or they're thinking something. It's just the body's a little out of whack. Sometimes I'll temper that with tarragon, like having them inhale tarragon or take a few drops internally. And tarragon is something you could also use for falling asleep. Just because it does stimulate the rest and repair mode. And so part of what it does is it calms everything down and brings the body into a deeper state of parasympathetic activity, which is, rest, repair, and sleep, digesting your food, things like that. And so, sometimes you got to find the little combination. If the person is got a lot of stress in their life, I'd probably go more clary sage. But for the most times, I would go for more like tarragon. Yeah.
Thank you. And the last question, someone asked if you could compare an herbal form versus the oil. I didn't know.
I would say it's probably 5 to 7 times stronger, maybe even a little bit more in the essential oil form. The herbal, like we've had people that we put on the Vitex and they go, because they also call it chasteberry. And they'll go, I've been doing that herb for years. It doesn't do anything. And then we have them switch to the oil and it's like, ugh, the oil does it. And, the thing with taking the herb is sometimes you just don't get enough of the potency. You would have to consume quite a bit to get the equivalent of what that small amount of essential oil is. And I go back to the idea of, the like rose, for example, it takes 24 roses to make a 1 drop of oil. So if you look at that 1 or 2 drops of Vitex that you're putting on, how much plant material went into that to be able to produce that result, and then also being assimilated by the body. And so, it would be hard to take that much Vitex and like produce that result because you'd have to have a meal of Vitex or a bottle of pills or something. And I'm not suggesting that somebody take that much, but the oil is so potent that it produces a result very quickly.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
And go ahead, Brenda, then Channing.
Hey, Brenda.
Hey, 2 questions.
Yes.
In the past, you suggested I do this Cedar Supreme Theralotion down my spine.
Okay.
That has been awesome, amazing. I finished the bottle. I'm wondering if I need to reorder, if that's good for my body, or if for my body's benefit, I need to change to something else and then go back to the Cedar Supreme in the future?
Let me just look at you here for a second. I would stick with the cedar. Yeah.
Okay.
Like anything else you would switch over to. I mean, it might be helpful for other things, but it wouldn't do quite what the cedar's doing. And I mean, it's better, but you still could use work there. I mean, honestly, it's an area where everybody could use work, but
Yeah.
treating the things that we were treating for you, I definitely would work. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second question, the
Mhm.
Nettle's Goldenseal combination caught my attention.
Mhm.
Should I take that in tincture form or?
Yeah, I can make it for you so it's all together.
Yes.
That would probably be the easiest, but I definitely would do like nettle, Goldenseal, because it's a little heavier on the nettle. And then I add a little bit of burdock just to stimulate the movement of lymph and detoxification and things like that. And I don't know, I always found it to be quite successful. I mean, sometimes we might need to do some other therapies, but I had several cases of where it wasn't immediate, like you had to treat it for a while, but where the disc actually just moved back by itself. And, back in the day when I was doing therapy full time, I think I had the cases where we had MRIs before and after, which was a lot, because people usually, when they have that kind of issue, at least back in the day, were getting MRIs. Without any other treatment, I think we had like an 85, 83% like success rate. And, it's not something immediate, but like if you keep treating it for a while, a lot of times, even if the disc doesn't go back, it gets to a place where it kind of doesn't matter. Like, you're just like, yeah, it's still there, because they've done studies where they just pulled people off the street and it was about 50-50, where people who had discs that were bulging, 50% were aware of it, 50% of the people were just like had no idea, like no back pain, no limitations, no anything. And I would say a lot of that is how much that the disc is out is one thing, but there's also how much is there muscular compression in that area. And if the muscles along the spine there's like these little muscles that go up and down and cross over to help the spine to move and stabilize it. If they get really tight, then they'll compress the disc more. There's like no space, and then everything becomes exaggerated. And so the cedar is helping clear things up for you. It's also moving blood and lymph in that area. Sometimes things will get so stagnant that the lymph nodes will turn into cysts, and it's just like a little piece of tissue that now is causing a little bit of a problem. I mean, it's not really a problem other than that, but the thing we want to do is just keep everything moving. And so
Okay.
Another thing that you can always do to complement what's happening is, always working on keeping the breath deep, being able to loosen up the diaphragm, because the diaphragm and the little spinal muscles, like if the spinal muscles are tight, you can guarantee that the diaphragm's tight. If the diaphragm releases, those little muscles release. They've studied this for physical therapy, and they directly correspond. And so the more that you can open up the bronchioles and keep the diaphragm like open, it keeps tension off the spine as well. And so it's kind of a secondary thing to address, but like you said, that cedar on the spine is so good. You could always, if you wanted to, still use it, but then like in between times or something, like say you're using it every night, maybe in the morning, put a little bit of marjoram on your back just to kind of help the muscles to unwind. And what the benefit of that is, the marjoram will help to open up the vessels, and then in the evening when you put the cedar on, it will like constrict them a little bit, because it's moving blood out of the area, and you'll manually pump the lymph in that area along the spine, and it's like a deeper kind of detox for that area, and it will help to release some of the tissue and the fascia and things in that, also reducing pain and things of that nature. And so, you could definitely throw that in the mix.
Okay, so I've been putting cedar on in the morning. You say
Yeah, either way, doesn't matter. There's you could do cedar in the morning and marjoram at night. You could even do them a couple hours apart. But like I figured, if you're anything like me, I do at the beginning and at the end of the day. In
Yeah.
between,
Not happening.
unless I sit down for lunch and there's something right in front of me, I'll do it. But otherwise, I won't think about it. So.
Okay. So when I put it on my back, it almost feels like the sternum area is crying out for something. So then I put a little bit of cedar on that. Is that
Yeah, that's fine. Love's crying out for that. Cedar would be okay. I mean, it might be a place where you put a little bit of the marjoram too, because like, especially if you have like rib cage restrictions, or things are starting to expand, like in the whole rib cage. Like, one of the areas that you'll get caught is either on the breastbone or like on the sides, like a little bit below the shoulder blade, like over here on the side, like you'd get.
There it is.
You see it?
Yes,
So
I see
over
it.
here on the side,
Yeah.
those would be two areas that really restrict the rib cage from opening. And so, marjoram, spikenard, vetiver, basil, anything that's kind of antispasmodic, like you could put on there to open it up. I kind of like the idea of larch isn't super antispasmodic like the other ones, but it's very good for deepening the breath. Hyssop would be in that same vein. Sitka, even frankincense would help to deepen the breath, but I'd keep manually putting something on the breastbone and maybe even hit a little bit of the sides,
Okay.
where you're reducing some of the spasms. Cedar has a bit of an antispasmodic effect, but you'll get more out of like marjoram or basil or petitgrain, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good choices. So okay, now it's clear. I'll order some of that cedar. But I can order, you'll do a combo of nettles, goldenseal, and burdock for me?
Yeah, put in a personal product request and
Okay.
I'll blend that up for you.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I just really, the balance for calcium, magnesium, or something you said earlier, we're just like that's what I need. Probably I need it for many things, but
Yeah.
okay, I'll do that.
Well, the thing that's nice about nettle is it does help with pain. It does help with muscle tension and cramping. It also helps to reduce inflammation. But part of why it does what it does is it has a lot of calcium, a lot of magnesium in it.
Mhm.
And so that's part of why it helps to reduce like the spasms and tension and things like that. And then it also just, by reducing the inflammation and dealing with muscle pain and trigger points to a certain degree, not massively, but to a certain degree, it just all keeps moving the body in the direction of getting better. And so
That sounds so good.
yeah,
Thank you so much.
you're so welcome. And keep us posted if you have questions. Let us know, but put in the product request, and that way we can just do it on one tincture instead of you having to buy 3 or 4. Yeah.
And then go ahead, Channing.
Hey.
Hi, Greg. Hi, Sam.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Just a forewarning, I took a dropper of Blue Lotus tincture right before I got on, and it completely switched me into happy mode. So, my special angels order came today, and I just got the notification that it was delivered, so I'm jumping for joy here. I have a question for you. It's a little
Yeah,
unusual.
that special thing
That
yeah.
special thingy dingy.
Yeah.
So
That's out of a
it just
class that we're
arrived
gonna.
today and I haven't opened it yet, but
Yeah.
I can't wait to start working with the healing spirits that you that you gave me the pattern and protocol for.
Right.
Remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's out of a class that we're doing in August.
I'm
Yeah.
really excited for that. Anyway, I have a question. It is related to oils, but something came up this week and I wanted to share with you, but it's really centered around oils.
Mhm.
Can you let's see, hold on one second. Can you talk about what plants come from wetlands? And are there any of the essential oils that we have been using that are related to wetlands? Plants that are
Like
thrive
in wetlands, or, you know, because like, for example, eucalyptus is used to clean up wetland. Like if there's too much water on a particular area, you plant eucalyptus and eucalyptus just sucks up all the water of standing water, and so
where is eucalyptus native to?
usually Australia.
Okay.
It can be in other places. Like there's some in China and things, but usually all the ones that I get are more Australia. But it's been used like in Europe and other places that when they're, you know, they're trying to usually manage like malaria or something, you know, something that's associated with standing water is one of the ways, you know, they treat the condition, but the local government or practitioners, whatever, will go out and plant a bunch of eucalyptus in the standing water to suck it up to, you know, reduce the mosquito population and stagnant water, or like the molds that are in the air. And so,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Are there any plants that we use that naturally grow or come from a wetlands area? I'll tell you the context when the next time we
Sure.
chat.
I would have to go through and look at notes.
Okay, I'm
But, you
really
know,
curious.
let me see if I can do a little quick dive.
And it's okay if you can't, but that is a bigger topic I want to share with you when we
Okay.
chat again next.
Um, let's see. Well, I'm sure there is, but I would have to do a dive. You know, because that's the thing is like sometimes it might come from a wetland, but that same plant could be somewhere else and not in a wetland. The
Okay.
thing that I would say, it's probably hard if it is wetlands, it would be hard to harvest that plant.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that there's a lot that would come directly out of a wetland area,
Mhm.
but you know, there's probably something somewhere, but I don't know what it is off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I am wondering if you can take a look at my knee.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on, but it feels like there's something happening
Which
under
which knee?
my right knee, under the kneecap,
Under the kneecap, does it feel more in the center or
right
like
in the
direct
center. Yeah, it hurts to climb
deeper in the knee,
stairs.
right?
Yes. It's definitely not an area, and I don't know if it's joint or
Um, and
feels
which,
like things are rubbing together.
yeah, but deep in the knee, right? Does it feel like
Yes.
directly under the kneecap or like deeper in the knee?
I think it's directly under the kneecap. I don't know, but I don't
Okay,
usually have any
so let's do
issues
this. Like have
walking.
you like straighten your leg and then take your, like if this is your patella, right? Like
Uh,
this is your patella, stick your finger on that tendon right below and push in a little bit.
Am I sitting or standing?
You need the leg to be extended. So like sitting on the couch or like, you know, at least, you know, straighten it out sitting from a chair.
Okay.
Okay, so you're pushing your finger into that tendon a little bit, so there's pressure, right? Like
Okay.
you're almost kind of trying to hold the kneecap in place. You know, it doesn't have to be excessive, but enough.
Mhm.
Okay. So now flex your quad, flex your leg and see what happens when the kneecap, when the kneecap moves.
Pops up.
It pops up, but does it hurt?
No, it
Okay.
only hurts when I walk or hike.
And is it off to the sides at all, or is it just deep in the center?
No, I can't. It's deep in the center.
Okay,
This is a new. This
so
is a
most likely there's a strain or tension in the ACL, like it's a ligament that runs through the center of the knee, and it's usually associated with that quad muscle. We'll show you a picture here. That quad muscle on the inner part of the thigh, but down low. I'll send you a picture here in just a second.
So
Medialis.
last Thursday when I went to see Michael, he did a new technique on me that was super, super painful. I didn't,
Uh-huh.
and so I don't know, but he did it on both sides.
Uh-huh.
I feel fine on my left knee, but
Well,
that's the only
when
change.
when this muscle gets weird, part of what it does is it puts pressure on the ACL. Like in if it's bad enough, and I'm not saying you're this bad, but if it's bad enough, it's so destabilizing to the knee when this gets like trigger points in it that it will actually cause the ACL to eventually rupture. I mean, it's usually when you're doing a lot of weight bearing stuff or like climbing stairs or hiking, but like with load, like like you have a big backpack on or something like that. Usually you just kind of go in and do a little bit of therapy on that area. You could try like marjoram or ginger, anything antispasmodic. Helichrysum would probably be really good, but you can kind of see that spot. Um,
Mhm.
I lost it for a second. Give me a second here. So you see how there's a higher X and a lower X?
Yes.
It's the lower X. I would still treat both of them, but like here, you can see that there's referred pain from the area. But part of what that does, especially that bottom one, you can see over on the far left picture how there's a big red area on the kneecap, but a little bit more anterior. But
Yep.
part of what that does is it puts a bunch of tension in that on that ACL, and you're more prone to have that your knee buckle a little bit. Like what you usually don't fall, but it's like it gave a little bit. And so when you're hiking, I mean, going uphill might do something, but a lot of times it would be when you're coming downstairs or coming downhill, your leg has to tighten up to stabilize the knee. And so that over a period of time, if there's already an issue there, it will keep getting worse and worse. And it actually will start to destabilize the knee because it's like the muscle's not contracting like this. It's just like, ugh. And so there's no increased stabilization as you're walking downhill because it's already just like that.
Mhm.
And so go through and do therapy on it, black pepper, pink pepper, marjoram, basil, petitgrain,
Okay.
anything antispasmodic will be super helpful. That
Okay.
APR, it's not what it's for, but APR has a bunch of helichrysum in it and it has a bunch of wintergreen. That would be helpful. Helichrysum would be super good, but do it in an ointment. Like do it in like some lotion or massage oil, 4, 5, 6 drops, rub it in there, and then just rub it over that little area. And over a
Okay.
period of time, it should unwind.
I hope so. Actually, the pain happens when I walk up or climb up.
Yeah,
Not so much when I'm going down.
yeah,
But it's pretty sharp pain.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, it's not on the back though, right? It's more towards the front.
It's all in the front, nothing in the back. It feels like, um,
Yeah.
it definitely feels below the kneecap,
Okay.
and it's only on one
Because the,
side.
the other issue that's a little bit of a concern, you're not necessarily describing it, but if you look below the kneecap, you have your thigh bone and then your lower bone, the tibia, and
Mm,
the knee's a weird joint. It's just two bones stacked on top of each other. Like, here we have a little bit of a socket, and in the hip you have a bigger socket, and your wrists and everything have these little bones and everything, and there's a little bit of a groove or a socket here. Knee, just two bones stacked on top of each other. It's like it's the weirdest joint in the body. And so in between, there's cartilage. And, usually when there's a little bit of a cartilage issue, it can be off to one side or the other. Like it's not directly under the kneecap. It's usually a little bit more on the inside, a little bit more on the outside. If there's a little tear, or a little fray or something in that. But you'll notice that it will start to swell a little bit, not massively, but there'll be a little bit of swelling. And then sometimes your leg will get like stuck in place for a second. Like you'll be walking on like, ah, and then you kind of manually straighten it out. And then, it's getting caught on that fray or that little bit of tear. And so what you're describing sounds more like an ACL issue. And so
mm,
the ACL then being destabilized by the quad. But, do a lot of specific work on that area, but the quadriceps themselves, like so the whole front of the leg, come down and then wrap around the kneecap and form that little tendon below your kneecap. So treating the whole front part of that thigh is always a good approach as well, but specifically that spot where the picture is that we showed you.
okay. Do you think it was just
It
too
happened over
deep that
time.
Michael did?
No, it happened over time. No, it's probably, I mean, it was probably so bad that that area was asleep and he unwound it and all of a sudden now you're aware of it, but that problem was there. Yeah.
Okay, I will do this. So I
Like
guess I won't
pain
be,
going away doesn't always mean the issue went away. And then pain coming doesn't mean that like something bad happened, but it's sometimes like I have to do that a lot with my legs is that like I'll get a bunch of work done and then all of a sudden they're kind of a little bit more painful or they're a little bit more sensitive. It's because the armoring is down and the area becomes more sensitive because the nerves are actually functioning more like they should. And so it's a little bit more like, where before I didn't feel it,
yeah.
and so it's part of unwinding like fascia and soft tissue. That is always a possibility. Always a
Ugh,
possibility. Yeah.
it hurts to unwind.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. You should hear
Okay,
me scream like a little child when I'm getting work done.
thanks
Yeah.
so much, Greg.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Keep me posted, but that should, over a period of time, that should resolve it.
Okay, good, because then I don't have to look into knee surgery. Like that's where my mind
No,
goes.
no, no, no. Even if it's what we think it is, I mean, the only thing that would be surgical is if you were bone on bone, you tore cartilage, or you tore your ACL, and even the torn ACL, they've done studies where 10 years out, people who did the surgery and then did no surgery, they're at the same place. They did physical therapy instead of surgery.
Mhm.
So usually it's either bone on bone or, cartilage is torn, but the cartilage can have like these little frays that come off of them that can cause issue. The other issue, like especially with the kneecap is, like the kneecap's like this, but it will like start to tilt. And
Mhm.
so it becomes a little bit of a tracking issue. And I mean, I've had the surgery for that. I don't know that I'd recommend it. It wasn't something planned, but when they opened me up, they were like, "Oh yeah, that's a thing." So they just did it, and
Mhm.
I don't know. I traded one pain for another. I don't
Mm.
know that it really resolved anything, but usually they can do it with like physical therapy and like you do this like kind of taping of the kneecap over a period of time and you can get it to like even out. But a lot of times it's that's usually the outer part of the quadricep and your iliotibial band will tighten up so much that the kneecap starts to do this. But it's usually, I mean, women are more predisposed to that because the pelvis on a woman is the bones are a little bit wider and your legs come in at like an angle, like a stronger angle. So there's always a greater potential for a little bit of a tilt in the kneecap, but it's usually like lots of hiking, lots of tennis, lots of like soccer, cycling, running, there's usually other factors or lots of time on your feet and high heels. Like that actually could be a predisposing factor as well. But I mean, you would
Okay,
have to
the
be on
last
your,
two checks.
yeah. Oh, I was going to say you'd have to be on your feet a lot, but if you did that, I mean, that could be a contributing factor. So again, I go back to like treating the whole front side of the leg and the side a little bit, but focus in on that spot.
Okay, all right, this is
Yeah.
something new, but all right, I'll do that and I'll just soak my entire right leg in marjoram and helichrysum one after the other. I'll just
Well,
stick it
you know
in.
what I do? I have like a big bottle of something, and like when I get out of the shower, I dry off and I sit on the edge of the tub and I do my legs and down to my ankles and sometimes my feet, but my legs, ugh, like I'm always doing stuff on them.
Yeah, it
The
feels so good.
pains from the surgeries have gone away, but like I still have sections of my legs that are just you know, they're not as bad of a hot mess as they used to be, but they're still a little bit of a hot mess, from youth. And so, breaking up that scar tissue and the lesions and things just takes time.
Mhm. Yeah, physical pain is just so wildly different than emotional pain.
Yeah, yeah. Both blow, but they blow in different ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Oh, and hey, props to Robert for being the chat ninja with throwing in all the information as we're talking. That was
Oh
great.
yeah, he's super good at it.
Thanks so much, Greg. I really
You're so
appreciate it.
welcome. You're so welcome.
Robert, the chat ninja. I love that. And again, guys, if you want to raise your hand, there's the react button there, and you just raise your hand. And then otherwise, we do have a handful of chat questions, so we'll
Okay.
just jump right into those. I lost my voice from steroid inhalers. I experienced complete paralysis of vocal cords. I couldn't feel any swallowing sensation. Also told I have vocal cord dysfunction, but my sense is that it's a tertiary issue, tertiary. I am so sorry. I'm not the best at. Okay. Tertiary.
Okay.
I have little voice now at 6 weeks after stopping steroid inhalers.
Mhm.
Any oils you would suggest to help? Not sure whether to address the muscles, the airway itself,
Right.
etc.
Okay, so the steroids were for what?
Yeah, you might, if you're okay, type in what the steroids were for.
The other thing that I would say is there any thyroid issue or have they done any work on the thyroid?
So, the first question, okay, perfect. So asthma and pulmonary fibrosis was why the
Oh,
inhaler.
got you.
And then the
Yeah.
thyroid is normal.
Okay, now I know who we're talking about. Okay. So the thing that I would say about that, I mean, the fibrosis does throw a curveball a little bit. The first thing that I would do is Like I'd use angelica or angelica seed, and I would take a couple of drops internal, and what I would do is I would put a couple drops in water, stir it around, and then sip it rather than just like a down the throat. And then from time to time, I'd also put a few drops of angelica in and gargle. And so part of what can happen is your vocal cords can get a cramp in them, like they'll tighten up, like you know, you get a spasm in your leg or in your back or something. It just clamps down and doesn't change. So there's that. But the other thing that can happen is they call it paradoxical vocal cord syndrome, and it's that when they're supposed to open, you know, it's flipped. They close, and then when they close, they open. And sometimes that is a contributing factor to asthma, and sometimes it's actually present, but the person doesn't have asthma. They actually have the vocal cord syndrome, and so it manifests as asthma, but it's this vocal cord issue. And so you know, with the fibrosis, you could also mix in, like from time to time, doing a gargle with helichrysum and maybe even just a drop in some water and then again sip that. Just if there's any scar tissue or thickening of the tissue, that could be helpful. But the angelica will reduce the stress state in the vocal cords, and the vocal cords are impacted by the vagus nerve. And so it's one of the ways that the body gets thrown off, you know, with the vagus nerve. It's in the heart, it's in the lungs, it's in the digestive tract, it's impacted by the urinary tract. But one of the earlier places is actually the vocal cord. And so there could be like poor tone, especially in that little branch that hits the vocal cord. And so the angelica actually can be very helpful for that. And you know, I do that for my vocal cords from time to time because I feel that it does a whole body thing as well. But I'll even, you know, take a few drops internal, do a little gargle, and then do an inhalation. I do have a vocal cord blend, but I'm just going to tell you right now, a majority of it is angelica. Like it's like angelica and vetiver and this oil called cypriol and Cape chamomile and Roman chamomile, Lycia cubeba. But all of those put together, there's 5 times as much angelica as all those other things. So all those other things are like little afterthoughts. The angelica is the heavy lifter here. So if you have angelica, I pop that out and start doing it. I don't mind making you this vocal cord blend. If you're going to buy angelica, it would actually even reduce the price because the other oils aren't as expensive as angelica. And so I was using this also to deepen the effects of increasing vagal tone, which is increasing rest and repair and all of that. And I found it very helpful. The times that I would usually use this is it's very common, sometimes in asthma, but like when people have had either have a weird thing going on in the thyroid, or they've had like a small procedure on the thyroid, and sometimes the vocal cord gets stressed or gets nicked or something like that. And so they'll develop this paradoxical vocal cord syndrome. And so this is part of how I would treat it, you know. I'd say, you know, it doesn't happen a lot, but going back 20 years, this has always been my kind of thing that I would do, and, you know, sometimes do a little healing. But the goal is that you're trying to re-educate the vocal cords, be it that they're stressed, they're inflamed, they're cramped up, whatever it is. And then angelica hits all of that. And so you should start to feel some sort of results relatively quickly, but the fibroids might slow down the process. But I would still say that's still the go-to thing to try to go at for this condition.
Thank you so
yeah,
much.
yeah, and keep me posted. I'm glad to talk you through it, or whatever you got going on. Keep us posted.
And I think you said it, we have the angelica root, the angelica seed, and the spagyric angelica tincture. Would want
I would probably do the regular angelica, like the angelica seed probably would work, but all the years that I was doing it, I was always using the angelica, the root. So I don't know that the tincture would be as potent. I would do it with the essential oil. Like that's the one that I produced the results with the most. And so, yeah.
Good evening. I've been dealing with something called Tinea versicolor, a fungal infection that causes discolored patches on the skin. Based on Google, it looks like a fungal infection of the skin due to overgrowth of the yeast, like a fungus Malassezia.
Hmm.
And then what can I take internally and what can I apply topically to get rid of this pesky thing ASAP?
Tinea
Yeah, so it is.
versicolor, got it.
Okay.
Yeah. And just look like, oh yeah. Hmm. So, where do they live? Like, do you live in like a warm or super humid area?
Illinois.
Well,
So
that's-
in the summer it's gonna get, but
yeah,
it's not
not
right now.
super humid, or is it?
Well, in the summer it gets pretty humid, but
Okay, so we have a blend called fungal support, and it would be something that would help to knock things out from the inside out. If I remember right, it's palmarosa, geranium, savory, and tea tree. And so I would say a couple of drops in water. I would take that and then I would apply tea tree to the body. It could be neat, but given that you're covering such a big area, you might want to do it in a body tonic or in. I hesitate to use an ointment form for this. I think a body tonic can be good, and a lotion could be good. I would do that as the first wave, and then the next thing, after you've treated it for, I don't know, like maybe a couple of weeks, like a week or two, um, there's always the potential that we might need to do a little bit more on the skin. That should help knock out the fungal component, but we want to balance out the skin or jumpstart the skin. And, there's things that we could use, like carrot seed would be good. Spikenard could possibly be good. But here, this is such odd thing that spikenard is balancing, but we want to kind of like regenerate the skin, because a lot of times the color will come back, but it takes a little while. And so it's not on the site. And I would say, let's not jump to this conclusion. Let's have you just treat the way that it is. But I can make you like a body tonic of this stuff called orris root. And, it's not necessarily the essential oil. It would just be a tincture, and then we'd make it into a body tonic. And then you would put it on the area. And it's kind of used to rehab the skin when there's been some weird thing happen. It won't knock out the fungal part, but if we knock the fungal part out and then the skin's just not quite functioning and the pigmentation hasn't normalized, then the next wave would be that we do the orris root topically. And so I would say do the fungal support and tea tree, and then let's see how it goes. And then after that, we can do next phase if we even have to. I don't know that we have to, but if we do, we still have plenty of things to draw upon.
How many drops in water?
Like probably two, like two or three. I mean, it doesn't have to be a whole bunch. Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, I think that's pretty good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'll reach
Keep-
out in a couple weeks.
Yeah, keep us posted. Yeah, keep us posted. Yeah.
I'd like to ask if be still and let go is the same or different. Where do I put my awareness at? On the body during be still and outside the body when let go?
Wait, say that again.
I'd like,
Or just the part about where they're putting their
oh, okay.
awareness.
So on the body during the be still and outside the body when let go. Because it's like you'd let go and you'd get outside your body. I don't know. That's
Oh, I think I understand. So I would say the be still, it depends on where you're at in that particular practice, be it oils or meditation, you know, being still would be calming down the intellectual mind and you're sitting there doing your processes, or if you're meditating, you're chanting or doing your breathing, and then you're being still. You're just kind of letting the body be still. And sometimes you might just feel like how you do right now, but other times you're starting to space out. And I would say if you start to space out, just be still with it and let it happen. If it's not in an expansive state, just still let your body just relax. The letting go is just if you're thinking about something or concentrating on something or doing a process, the letting go is letting go of that concentrated state. When you're concentrating on something, eventually it will produce awareness. But sometimes our concentration still hasn't become extreme enough to produce the opposite. And so if you're still in the concentration mode, then you manually just go, let go. So I'll give myself as an example. Like in my early days when I'd be meditating, I'd be going, okay, home, after doing whatever, and you're getting to the part where there's supposed to be the expansion. And then I'd be like, well, is there 15 seconds between the ohms or 30 seconds between the ohms? Like, maybe I should enhance this by, putting my awareness somewhere in my body. I'd be like busybody monkey mind, like trying to do this and that to make the experience like deeper or to facilitate from happening. And awareness comes from not being that detail oriented. You're just observing things. And so in the letting go, you're letting go of the process, but then you're just going, okay, I feel expanded. Okay, I don't feel expanded. I feel something in my body. I feel something in the environment. I can hear noises outside. I can feel my breath. There's thoughts arising in my head, and you're not defining them or figuring them out or trying to enhance them or manage them. You're just observing, like, huh, okay. And then there should be greater levels of expansion eventually. Maybe not at first, but eventually. Yeah.
they said I'm confused about letting go with awareness on certain area on some meditations.
Yeah, you're just not focused, you're being aware. Like focus would be like this, awareness would be like this, right? So it's not a hard concentration. You're just like, oh, I'm going to be aware of my shoulder. Concentration would be, okay, my shoulder. So it's just a different kind of thinking. You might be going to the same place, but awareness is just much, much softer, not one pointed.
Thank you so much. I will
Yeah,
try it.
I hope that helps.
What is the effect on the chakras when chanting divine names or toning archangels' names associated with the chakra?
Like what kind of thing are you asking? Like just the mechanics of it, or? Yeah.
Just what is the effect?
Well, I would say it's not limited to the chakras. So that's why I was trying to go with like where
Will it purify the chakras?
yeah. I hesitate to just say yeah. It depends how much an intellect you are. If you're high in the intellect, the effects will be very, very small. Especially the purifying part, because the part that has to do with letting go and shifting is more of the intuitive mind. So just saying the holy name or the angel, it depends. Like, you could say yes or no. So the more the intuitive component, the more that not just the chakra, but the overall energy of the person will begin to shift, and even consciousness will begin to shift. But if the intellect is kind of micromanaging and not allowing for there to be that shift or that release, then it will be relaxing, it will be soothing, but the shift won't happen. And so that's kind of why, like, when we talk about the angels and things, that I was always saying, like, there's steps. It's not just about invoking the name or even toning the name. It's helpful, but the more that you prepare the mental body and the body itself, the deeper the effect. And um, if you think about, like, if there's a bunch of blockages in a pipe in your kitchen sink, for example, and you pour water there, it goes in really slowly because it has to overcome all those blockages. And eventually it might push them out, or it just has to move around those blockages, right? But if the pipe's empty and you pour water in, boom, it hits the system. So this would be a lot like that. The more that the person is in that intuitive state, the deeper the effect of the holy names and the angels would be. I mean, I've done practices both in the Buddhist tradition and the Kabbalistic tradition where we weren't even allowed to do holy names until we had done a certain level of purification. And then um, at one point, it was like, okay, you guys are doing this. Now every time you want to say the holy name, you have to do purification for 30 days to say it one time. And then you want to do it again, purification 30 days, and then you say it one more time. Like, that was the routine for a while. And it's that same idea. Like, if you look in the Jewish tradition, they say, like, you wear the cap, the little, what's the thing called? What that little hat that they wear, yarmulke, something. So they'll say that has to be worn when invoking the holy name. Otherwise, I can't remember what they say, like you'll burn up, or you'll yarmulke. So you'll burn up. And then, I've even seen have some friends that are in that tradition, and if they don't have a yarmulke and they're going to say the holy name, or somebody asks them about it, they'll take a piece of paper and they'll stick it over their head. And I don't know that it does the same thing, but the idea is the yarmulke, they're wearing it and it's being infused with spiritual energy. So when they put it on, it activates the centers and is more stimulating to the intuitive part of the mind. And so it's the same idea. Like you wear the yarmulke so that when you do invoke the names or do a prayer, that the intuitive mind is more involved and you're not just stuck in the intellect, right? And so different traditions will have different hats or shawls or things of this nature. But the idea is so that the body can assimilate it, the body, the energy body, the intuitive mind, the heart. And so again, it depends. Like, you take somebody that's like the person off the street that's not into anything, they say a holy name versus the Dalai Lama or some advanced, soul says the holy name, and oh boy, there's such a difference. Is the pipes are cleaner. Like the pipes have been expanded and they've been cleaned out. And so an energy kind of comes through. So it would also be the same for somebody who's chanting or toning the names or whatever it might be. I mean, that's why we did that whole like build up to working angels, but we did that universal angelic process. It's like a way to manually make your mind and your physiology conductive to that stuff so that more can come in. And so, yeah. I mean, we're doing the other side of that with the heart in the class coming up on the weekend, but the angelic part was working the crown and the brain. Yeah.
And go ahead, Jenny.
Greg, I have a very quick question. Is
Mhm.
the Jupiter blend that I have the same as the Spirit of Jupiter? I think it's
Nope.
not, but I wanted to clarify. It's not,
No,
right?
no.
Okay. One word for you. Wow.
It's an aspect of Jupiter.
Okay.
Like
Oh my
it's
gosh. I'm on a
like if
totally
you
different.
broke down and said, okay, all these little pieces make up Jupiter. It's one piece or one aspect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Venus will be in the aspects of Venus will be in October.
Yeah, I think I'm already there. This is great. I can't even talk because I'm just in a different realm right now.
Yeah.
I opened all 4 bottles. So much fun. Thanks,
Yeah.
Greg.
It should help your process.
Yep.
Good.
Thanks.
Probably the tip of the iceberg. How to treat basal cell carcinoma on a cheek below the left eye. Mix.
Yeah, you just got to start throwing stuff at it. I don't know that you can go, this is the thing. I would do shiso body tonic on the body, especially the upper part. Um, uh, I would take something internally, like I would do either maitake mushrooms or even nettle, like we've been talking about nettle a lot tonight. I mean, it could be used in a scenario like this. Maitake stimulates the processes of the immune system that would fight off any sort of cancerous growth. Um, the other thing that I like to use in some of these situations is red clover tincture. It's not an oil, it's a tincture. And they use that a lot in reducing cancerous growths in the old days, and like in livestock and things, they'll do that. The other thing that you could add to it, like when it's something on the skin, is you can take a Q-tip and put orange oil on it and then rub it on the spot, and it will burn and sting a little bit. But over a period of time, there has been some cases where we've made it go away, but it's not a for sure thing. I kind of evaluate people on a case by case basis, and the ones where I was like, it's probably not going to work, but we tried it anyway, it didn't work. But there's some people where it was like it worked. I would start with that and treat that. Don't put the orange oil just on your fingers because it will kind of sting a little bit. So put it on a Q-tip and then really rub it all over that area. Yeah. So we got to jump over to the Astara prayer petition blessing, and thanks for hanging out. And study group tomorrow night is
Generational healing 2.0.
generational healing. So yes. And hopefully we see you tomorrow night, or some of you for the nervous system or the cultivating the mystic heart on the weekend.